Today on CityLine, protecting your data, equal access to opportunities, and laws that protect the public interest. Good morning to you. I'm Jessica Brown. Big changes are unfolding around diversity, equity, and inclusion programs as they're now facing legal scrutiny. The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission is carrying out President Trump's directives to roll back all DEI programs. The EEOC chair sent a letter earlier this year to Fortune 500 companies reminding executives to comply, urging them to, quote, reject identity politics as its solution to society's ills. The only lawful way to stop discrimination on the basis of race or sex is to stop discriminating on the basis of race or sex. Now, earlier this year, the EEOC launched an investigation into Nike for alleged discrimination against white workers. The probe focuses on whether Nike's diversity, equity, and inclusion goals unfairly disadvantage some employees. The agency is looking at records dating back to 2018, specifically looking at layoffs, wages, and mentoring programs. And the EEOC is suing a New Hampshire-based Coca-Cola bottler for sex discrimination, alleging the company discriminated against male employees by only inviting women to a company-sponsored networking event. 250 women went on the two-day networking event in 2024 at Mohegan Sun in Connecticut. Well, the agency is seeking damages for impacted workers. And last month, the EEOC announced a $500,000 settlement with Planned Parenthood of Illinois to end the agency's investigation into alleged discrimination of Planned Parenthood's DEI practices. Now, it's the first settlement of its kind since President Trump returned to office. So joining us now, we have Brianna Aloisio Savage. She's the director of Advocacy for YW Boston and the leader of the Massachusetts Alliance for Equity. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
We have a lot to talk about here.
Yes.
How have these new policies, in your view, impacted local companies?
They have certainly impacted local companies. They have started this movement of fear and confusion and chaos, and that's intentional. And so we're hearing a lot of companies, organizations, nonprofits, partners are confused. They don't know how to navigate these new legalities and these executive orders and everything going on with the EEOC. And so that's why we started this Alliance for Equity, is to provide that place for clarity and camaraderie.
Let's talk about this coalition here. I mean, who's all a part of it, and what is your goal here?
Yeah, absolutely. So it is intentional to be a cross-sector alliance, so multi-industry, so private, nonprofit, folks who work across the state in Massachusetts coming together to provide clarity, understanding, resources, and uplifting each other's work while it is being threatened in other places. So we're here to support one another. And so we have different organizations, mostly nonprofits, just because that's where YW Boston is coming from, but also private sector allies and friends too.
You know, many companies have ended their, diversity initiatives over the past year very quickly too. Yes. For those that didn't, and for them, what work is being done, and how does your coalition help with that?
Yeah, absolutely. There's still work being done, right? And that's the point, is that it is not illegal to create equitable opportunities and foster belonging and inclusion. That is not illegal. And this alliance and this coalition is supporting those movements, whether folks have had to rename or shy away or maybe not publicly shout from the rooftops what they're doing. The work remains and the people are still dedicated to it. And so that's what we're seeing in our alliance, and we're supporting one another through navigating those confusing times.
What did you make of how quickly these programs were dismantled?
Yeah, it was sad to see, and I think that's what some of the missteps were over the last year or two, is really seeing a lot of folks shy away and disband so many of their programs, fire so many chief equity officers or anybody with that kind of in their title, without there being real legal overhaul. And so it was disappointing to see folks shy back, but if that's what they had to do to survive and the work still remains, then that's what matters at the end of the day.
Do you think that there could be another shift coming?
I hope there's a shift coming. We see shifts coming with, of course, history and cultural tension. I think this administration is putting a lot of ugly rhetoric out there and trying to change this narrative with misinformation, and that's what this alliance is really focusing on, is sharing the truth, the facts, and the data. We know that diversity, equity, inclusion, however you want to call it or bottle it up or whatever acronyms you want to use, we know that that makes companies more productive. We know that it's smart business sense, and folks who roll away from it are going to start to see the cost of that in their organizations and businesses.
Well, speaking of the cost, we have to talk about one well-known company that saw immediate backlash for rolling back DEI. We're talking about Minneapolis-based Target. Many are still boycotting the stores now, right? What do you make of the decisions made by the company?
I think they saw the reality of their choices, and this is what we're going to see in businesses that do this on a small scale in Massachusetts or Boston area, or on a larger scale, a large company like Target. When you have this big platform and you're actually coming out and saying that you don't support inclusion and belonging, you're going to create an environment that's not psychologically safe for your employees, for your clients, or your customers. And so it's disappointing to see them shy away from these real values, but they're also going to see the business sense play out.
You know, I want to talk about what the New York mayor, right, Zoran Mamdani, just released the city's legally mandated plan to eliminate racial inequity in government. They specifically left out the words diversity, equity, and inclusion. We were talking about, you know, kind of the remixing of the name. What do you think about companies doing that and working quietly without naming it DEI?
Yeah, you know, we've seen folks do both. Mass Nonprofit Network, the Boston Foundation, and Mass Inc. just had a great survey came out, mostly of nonprofits in Massachusetts, and how they're either shying away from using this language or doubling down and really leaning into it. So folks need to do that in order to get funding, in order to get investment. I understand it, and it's let's survive. And again, the work remains. So as long as you're doing the work, that's what matters in the end. If your business, your organization, your team feel well supported and included, then that's what's going to matter at the end of the day.
And for nonprofits who are committed to this, right? They want to continue doing the work. What kind of support do they need?
Yes, there's a lot of confusion, like I said, and a lot of planned chaos. And so they're overburdened. They're using their limited resources to figure out all these legalities. The Attorney General's office has done a great job of releasing guidance, webinars, and issues around what the legal ramifications are. So nonprofits need to turn to that and root themselves in the facts. They also need to turn to one another, leaning into this collective power, sharing resources, funding opportunities. We know that funding opportunities are limited and resources are limited. So how can we lean on one another during these times when things are scarce, and we can support one another in those efforts.
Brianna Aloisio Savage, we appreciate you being here, from the YW Boston, Director of Advocacy. We appreciate your insight on all of this.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.